Hey, actually, the internet. So here we will update the interest liquidity rate in 256 time delta we have actually calculated. So if liquidity rate is greater than 0, we just have to update the liquidity index. And how are we supposed to u int liquidity reserve dot liquidity index should be new according to what's the math here? What is the math here? How are we updating we are calculating the linear interest? Typecasting to like reserve dot liquid current liquidity okay, linear interest divided by 1.7 u int 256 linear interest will be Vadri math. Have we interpreted? No. Import Vadri mathematics. What's the name? Vad control minus Vadri from dot slash move into mathematics section math slash Vadri math dot soul. And Vadri math it is So we are passing rate. Time delta we have actually passes liquidity rate. We have to pass liquidity current liquidity. I'll reserve dot current liquidity. I like you. Rate into time delta. Then we are just gonna update with u int 128 typecast is to u int 256 reserve dot liquidity index into what? Into linear interest. Whole thing should be divided by 1e27. Liquidity index is in 128 bit. Let me see. Liquidity index is in 128. Am I still streaming? Let me check. Okay. Linear interest rate. Great. So we have updated liquidity rate, and we also need to update the variable borrow index. If variable borrow rate is greater than 0, the variable borrow rate is, then we just have to UN 256 compound interest is vad ray dot math dot calculate compound interest. We are going to pass variable borrow rate, variable into time delta, and then we are just update reserve dot variable borrow index, current borrow rate, current liquidity index variable borrow index should be event 128 typecast. We have to typecast u into 56 reserve dot available liquidity. What's the instead of variable borrow index into whatever is my linear interest and compound interest, and all these things should be divided by 1e to the power 7. 1E27, this whole thing. I still didn't get it. Let me check again. Compounded. Now we have updated the liquidity rate and borrow variable rate. Stable does not have index. Hmm. Hmm. Amount rate. This logic can be written somewhere else. No, why do I have to write it again and again? Reserve dot current timestamp. What is their timestamp related? Last updated timestamp is block dot timestamp. So everything is same. Why do I have to write it again and again? Current timestamp. Where is current timestamp? Oh, have we? Where it is? Reserve data reserve is frozen. Last updated. Uint 40. It's reserve data, not reserve. have we typecasted it? Let's say in borrow. Say PRC variable data types. Say PRC variant events borrow. These are events. Okay. We are passing reserve here. Hey guys, I need to drink water, so I'm gonna take a break to fill my water bottle. Ah. How do I take it out? Sorry guys. Yeah, we were here. You can typecast it to event 40. But there is a problem. We can shift the whole function dot update interest, and it will take data and internal. It will take reserve because we are updating the interest only. So data types dot reserve data. Should be storage because we are going to write in the data reserve reserve. And what is it? First of all, it's going to calculate the time interest, or we can just pass the maths here. Let me understand what it is doing and why it is doing. First of all, we are taking asset, liquidity added, liquidity taken. Oh yeah, liquidity added, liquidity taken. It will be in the reserve, I guess, in the parameters while calling. So let's say if we are borrowing, liquidity isn't, and if we are why there is a need of asset. Oh, to get the total supply. Interest rate strategy. We are calculating the interest and then we are updating the rate. Current stable borrow rate, current variable borrow rate, current liquidity rate, and we're just emitting the event. Asset, it is of type address of the asset, then int 256 total liquidity added liquidity, and you cannot do that, so let's int to removed liquidity. First we are going to call the total stable debt. It should be after int 256. So I stable interface, have we imported? Nope. Do we have to? Yes. Do we have to? I don't think so. Yes, you have to. You can call that without even, you know. stable debt token, then we have to pass the asset address of the token dot total supply. Is it something like that? How do you call that? Update interest. Then what's the point of using asset here? And also here, instead of asset, let's say params dot asset. Where are we using asset here? AWSET asset. Reserve dot available liquidity. Okay. There is no use of asset. What is the use? Why are we passing? First we have to verify the whatever you are passing, let's say rate parameters. Streaming or not? Sometimes it does happen with Claude. Super frustrating. Yeah, whatever, I'll update that later. Reserve dot a token address, stable token address. total supply, we have to take total supply of total variable I. We have to also import variable depth token. Variable depth token and I variable depth token is IRC20 wherever by you can just go by control minus. Reserve new int 256 average stable depth. We have to call the I stable depth token reserve dot stable depth token dot average stable rate. Do we have that logic? Let's see. I stable depth token get average stable rate, get a user stable rate, get total supply and average rate, and what it returns wherever based tokens under tokens. Okay, maths types tokens here. Transfer get total supply. Okay, get total depth and average, get total supply and average. Total depth is total depth we are skip zero amount. Get total depth and average. Why is there? We are taking get total supply and average rate. Total liquidity added, liquidity taken, total stable debt, total variable debt, average stable rate. Okay, we have the total rate. Interest, if you are trying to calculate the interest, so stable rate, average stable rate onto total, let's check. It's just an interface. Variable rate, stable rate, total liquidity, total borrow, total reserve. It takes three parameters. And why are you passing move? Utilization, total liquidity, zero return, total borrow. How are you going to get the total borrow, man? It's incomplete function. Total liquidity, oh, currently we just have to pass the utilization, and based on that it will give me the interest rate, interest rate. Interesting. Just the utilization. You don't have to worry how much percentage or whatever it is there. So you just need the total debts, and you need total liquidity, from which it will get the, okay, let me check again, and total reserve. Reserve कितना है? Okay. Reserve, total supply, let's understand this thing in deep depth. Current stable rate, why do I need average stable rate? But we don't need this much parameters, I guess. High interest rate is very calculate interest rate. Interest rate strategy, calculate interest rate. What the hell just happened? Let me check if I'm still. Yeah, whatever. Let me fix that by myself. AI is useless here. Interest rate strategy takes calculation only takes two parameters. Current borrow, current liquidity, and rate is event driven, not time driven. Yes. Mm-hmm. Asset is pretty useless here, so you can use that to verify if the asset, but we are getting asset here in we are getting asset. Okay, yeah, parents dot asset. So we actually getting the asset from you need to also verify if parents dot asset is in the reserve. You need to create a storage logic as a file, contract separately, or you can use that in where lending pool. Mm-hmm. Interface is I interest rate strategy, and there isn't anything like this struct. This whole thing is flawed because we are not using any kind of struct. Let me fix that. Why are you taking stress, brother? Command X, and it's a contract, and it's not be overriding anything. And here in interest rate strategy you just pass the function. Mm-hmm. Params shouldn't be there. Liquidity added, total borrow. Liquidity added, liquidity removed. Both should be there now. total liquidity and total borrow. It uses the curve. Total supply of variable token, total supply of debt token, and E token. But logic here is really simple: total liquidity and total borrow. From the same pool, yeah, the pool will be same. You can just reduce down to, it's simple. Just a second. Two minutes. So yeah, we were total liquidity and total borrow. Should I calculate total liquidity? Okay, please connect. Yeah, let's see what Aave uses. Tokenization, delegation awareness, stable debt token, variable debt token, and where it is interest percentage math helpers, configuration, borrow logic, call data, configure register logic. E-model logic, flash loan generic, liquidation, pool, reserve, supply, validation, maths, utilities, percentage math, under pool, multiplication, division. Okay, under math, calculate linear interest, current rate and timestamp. Calculate compound interest. It's internal pure. But it is using result will be current rate, let's say 2% minus the time delta. Okay, time delta is, let's say 500 whatever, so result will be second per year. Second per year is say 65 days. Oh, the fuck is nothing. So yeah, it's just simple as it is. U into 56 plus dot ray. Where is math? Yeah, dot ray multiplication, ray division. What's dot ray here doing? I'm not getting. Ray is 1 into the power 27. Just to convert it into Current timestamp we can get from block timestamp. Okay, whenever you're calling it. So Solium disable next line. I don't get it what it is, but let's read the here. Function is calculate interest using compound rate to avoid expensive exponent exponentiation. The calculation is by using binomial approximation. 1 plus x power n is 1 plus n into x plus n by 2 into n minus 1 into x square plus, yeah, something like, yeah. The approximation slightly underpays liquidity providers and undercharges borrower with the advantage of great cost reduction. The white paper contains reference to the approximation and table showing margin of error per different time period. Read the interest rate in Ray last updated timestamp, the timestamp of the last updated of let's see how it is doing. Current timestamp minus last updated timestamp. If it's 0, why there is no need to calculate. And then -1 -2 power 2 base power 3. Yeah, so here we have -1 -2 base to the power 3. Okay, -1 n -1 is, yeah, here n -1 n is power time difference. And what's the x then? Let's say time delta -1 -2 is if greater than 2, then -2 and then 0. Okay, base power 2 multiplication of rate is converted to remel a and b we are gonna pass, and it's gonna return ray form like 1e vad. What's the difference? I forgot. Ray is base 27 and vad is base 18. So we are passing here only rate with rate. Why are you doing this? I am not getting. Oh, base power 3 base, oh, rate into rate. Second term is exponential. Second term time delta into -1 into base. So time delta is n into x. Time delta first term क्या है then? First term, yeah, okay. So time delta into base power 2 -1 base power 2 -1 n -1 n -1 is time delta -1 base power 2 into n by 2. It is unchecked. Second term divided by 2, whole second term. Third term, this one is first term, I guess. No, this is just a calculation. This is third term by 6. Let us see where is, yeah, by 6 minus 1 minus 2 base power 3. Third term is minus 1 minus 2 base power 3 into time delta, and the whole thing is divided by 6, where 3 math first term plus second term plus third term. This is the first term. This is linear interest, this is compound interest. And how are we applying? Execute, supply, reserve, pool, liquidation, isolation, general, call data, bridge, borrow logic. Library, function, execute, borrow. So reserve, update, reserve dot update state. What the heck is reserve here? Normalize income time, current, last updated. So messed up, man. So messed up. Library, pool logic, supply logic. Execute, supply. Reserve dot update state, reserve dot validate state, reserve dot update interest rate. These three things. Then we are going to, from sender to the A token address, the amount. Validation logic, under validation we are not doing any type of validate withdraw, validate borrow, everything is under validation. Update state, accrue strategy, update indexes, update index. Where is the interfaces? Oh, it's so messed up. Bridge logic is out of. reserve data, scanning a parameter, then what we will have is reserve. It's a mapping. How the heck can you call that data state on this one? Execute withdrawal. Okay. Under validation, validate supply, validate. Aha. Update indexes view. Yep. Staking reserve, cache, address, liquidity added, liquidity removed. Calculate interest rate. Update interest rate we have got. Update state is also there. How the heck? Cumulated liquidity interest math utilize and calculate linear interest on liquidity rate. It should be linear and debt is compounded. Wow. Calculate current linear interest by timestamp and current liquidity rate. And the next, update the indexes, transfer the event, then update the rate again with current liquidity. I still didn't get why we are doing interest. like this. Calculate interest rate, high interest rate strategy. Calculate interest rates. How it is calculating the interest rate and where is the logic for interest rate strategy, where it is. um Calculate interest rate parameters on reserve interest rate strategy. Types: pool, under pool, pool storage, default pool, tokenization, helper, tech paper, mocks, protocols, configuration, libraries, pool, under pool. There isn't tokenization, nothing is there. Where can I find there? I interested I interest rate. There is nothing. I interest rate strategy. Reserve interest rate. Interest rate. Mocks. Flash loan upgradability. Protocol configuration. Library pool. Libraries. Under libraries. AWE upgradability. And there shouldn't be. Configuration helper. Logic. Borrow. Configuration, flash, generic, isolation, liquidation, reserve, math, percentage, ties, pool. Interest rate strategy. Default reserve interest rate strategy. Yeah, what it is doing is total debt variable where's total debt parameter, total stable debt plus total variable debt. That is what it is doing. That is what current liquidity rate is 0. Current variable borrow rate is base variable borrow rate get base variable. Current variable, current stable borrow rate. Stable to debt ratio. Stable to total debt ratio. Where it is, and default reserve interest rate strategy, and under interfaces, contract interfaces, I I initial stable token. Okay, let's get back to where I was. Reserve pool, I reservation, high reserve interest rate strategy. Calculate linear here just below update interest rate. Where am I? Yeah. What's the point? Calculate the interest. Total stable debt token, total variable debt token. We have got total tokens, a total debt, and if total debt isn't equal to 0, then we are going to proceed. Total stable to total debt ratio. So stable total stable debt. We are dividing by total debt. Available liquidity. Balance of a token. Total balance minus plus total liquidity added variable available liquidity plus debt. Borrow usage rate. Total debt minus available liquidity plus debt. Let's keep it simple for now, and in future we will just upgrade it. Sometime it does happen. The heck is going on? Should I close it and reopen? under total liquidity, total borrow, and available liquidity, available borrow. Mm, we are keeping maths really simple here and not to complicate everything, and later on we will upgrade it to something better. Okay. Hmm. Guys, please do not disconnect.